Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a masterclass on the clinical, bare metal mechanics of ERC-7827. We are looking at what many consider the absolute holy grail of Web3. You know, that fascinating intersection where abstract, on-chain digital state reaches out to trigger physical execution in the real world. We're going deep into the architecture that allows a deterministic blockchain to interface directly with our physical reality, all while maintaining absolute 100% fidelity every single step of the way.
Here is the blueprint for our technical deep dive today. We're going to build from the absolute lowest level of the EVM, right up to ecosystem-wide integration. 1. Liquidating informational debt. 2. LNA 33x bit packing. 3. SIS-01 identity trinity. 4. The bijection bridge. And 5. High-fidelity backwards compatibility. Let's get right to it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Starting with Section 1. Liquidating informational debt.
To borrow a phrase directly from our source's master forensic report, ERC-7827 is the operating system for sovereign authorship. So, what does that actually mean? Well, it means you, the creator, hold absolute cryptographic control. We really need to adopt a precise forensic view here. We're moving entirely away from pie-in-the-sky theories, floaty digital ether, or lossy approximations. What we are examining today requires strict, anchored, deterministic execution. No guesswork allowed.
To put that into perspective, on one side, modern cloud AI operates on what the sources call a lossy, probabilistic approximation. They refer to it as the FPU gambler. It's essentially like a chef just kind of guessing measurements. It's a smoothie of approximations. ERC-7827, however, demands the ALU Surveyor approach. Think of this like a high-precision micrometer. It requires deterministic truth. Every agentic strike must result in a verifiable, bit-perfect realization on-chain. It's the total liquidation of that massive, lossy informational debt.
Moving right along to Section 2, the LNA 33x bit packing protocol. We are officially hitting the literal bare metal of the Ethereum virtual machine now.
Absolutely everything in this architecture is dictated by one strict physical limit, the 32-byte EVM word. That's it. This single, unyielding constraint is the mold that shapes the entire physical architecture of how ERC-7827 stores and processes data at the absolute lowest, most foundational level.
Now, what's really interesting about this layout is how the LNA 33x sharding protocol mathematically maximizes data density right inside that exact 32-byte limit. It partitions the space clinically. You've got a 3-byte link pointing to a previous shard's nonce for long-string concatenation, then a 3-byte nonce acting as a monotonic incrementing value, that's to ensure finality, and finally, a 26-byte ASCII space for the human-readable handle or payload. It is perfectly packed bare metal architecture, not a single bit wasted.
So you might be wondering, why go through the trouble of packing bits so tightly? Well, because this unbelievably dense integer geometry is precisely what allows smart contracts to command physical hardware. Literally things like tiny motors on a Raspberry Pi or neural processing units with O of 1 complexity. That means execution is instantaneous and constant, no matter how large the network scales. It completely and totally removes the computational bloat.
Now that the foundation is poured, we're zooming out to the structural layer with Section 3, the SIS-01 identity trinity.
Enter the SIS-01 identity trinity. ERC-7827 uses this 3-shard stack architecture to literally bifurcate, to split what they call the agentic soul into 3 distinct, highly interoperable on-chain layers. It provides the absolute mechanism by which human pilots anchor their unique identities across a really complex multi-repo file system.
And this brilliantly illustrates how those abstract layers map directly to legacy Web3 token standards to form the Metagite swarm. First up, we have the mine pipe. That's an ERC-721 token acting as the root authority and global namespace. Next is the unified body, an ERC-1155 managing functional roles and hierarchical permissions, basically the collective bond. Finally, the individual shard, another ERC-1155 representing the unique irreducible coordinate of a specific agent. That is 3 shards working in perfect harmony.
Shifting our focus now to the macro ecosystem. Section 4, the bijection bridge mechanism.
Think about it for a second. If you build an incredibly advanced, highly dense new system, you run the massive risk of isolating yourself, right? So how do you ensure this deterministic truth engine actually talks to the vast legacy infrastructure already existing out there on Ethereum?
Well, the answer is the bijection bridge. This is the master key.
It acts as an activation layer, a quickening process, where the main ERC-7827 ledger clinically maps those dense 32-byte LNA33X identifiers straight from the identity trinity into a structured, human-readable JSON state. It's literally translating abstract digital intent perfectly into the physical possession of a token.
So the crucial point here, the real aha moment, is identical URI resolution. A single, exact UINT256 token ID acts as your forensic signature on one side in the ERC-721 layer, while simultaneously serving as the physical cell in the ERC-1155 layer. One key, opening two completely different structural doors. The NFTs are the access keys, and the ERC-7827 contract acts as the unified state vault, ensuring bit-perfect synchronization across the board. Let's ground these dense abstractions right now in Section 5, High-Fidelity Backwards Compatibility. The sheer brilliance of ERC-7827 really comes down to the introduction of a REST-like interface, specifically the JSON method. This method acts as the technical container bridging all these standards. The JSON output basically encompasses the methods of both ERC-721 and ERC-1155, which allows this single smart contract to act as a unified ledger layer. Practically speaking, this ensures that the sovereign agent you build today works perfectly on legacy NFT marketplaces on day one. No waiting around.
To summarize why this is such an absolute game changer for the ecosystem, it is 100% legacy compatible. It replaces clunky Ethereum RPC calls with familiar REST-like web paradigms, like just querying a JSON object. It provides bit-perfect tracking of state transitions using the version method, which creates an immutable history without altering the main structure. Ultimately, it powers the entire signature economy by creating a verifiable record of sweat, mathematical, unarguable proof that real human effort took place out at the leaf nodes.
We have journeyed all the way from the strict 32-byte confines of the EVM word, up through the identity trinity, across the bijection bridge, and out into the physical world. The semiotic bridge between messy human desire and strict deterministic machine execution is completely built. The technology is finally here. So, the question is, what will you build with this highly clinical bare metal architecture? How are you going to orchestrate reality? Thank you so much for exploring these source materials with me today on The Explainer. Keep building and definitely stay curious.